Hey, thanks for pressing play. Welcome to the Suns Jam Session podcast. My name is John Voida, the managing editor of Bright Side of the Sun. And here we are once again on another post-game podcast here on the Suns Jam Session. We go live after every single game, whether it's a win, whether it's a loss. And tonight, we're going to be talking about a loss. Phoenix Suns go to the Cleveland Cavaliers, the best team in the NBA, and prove that we have a long way to go. The Nick Richards honeymoon lasts one game. And there's a lot to talk about in this one. There's a lot of reasons why. There's a lot of inner looking. Once again, as these losses occur, Suns fans typically start to look inward and start to wonder what's the why. Why are we so non-competitive against quality competition? Why are we struggling to win against subpar competition? And what can we do to fix it? Right. And we're not going to be able to answer all those questions tonight. We're not going to have all the answers, but we're going to talk about it. And we're going to take a look at this game and we're going to propose some ideas that have been circulating. And we're going to have some good basketball conversation. And that's what I like to have here on the Suns Jam Session podcast. I will be solo on this one, a solo pod. Matthew obviously working a Monday game, 1:30. Not a lot of people available to pop on and podcast with me, but that's okay. You guys like me, right? You guys will be doing okay. One thing you have working in your favor as you're watching this live, or if you're listening later, is just know that the reality of the fact that the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are playing a national championship game here in about an hour and a half is starting to settle in, and the nervousness, the angst that comes with that happens. And generally when that happens and I'm nervous and I'm frustrated and I'm anticipatory, I talk a lot. So this actually is going to be therapy for me, just talking through this and distracting me for the next hour and a half before the Notre Dame Fighting Irish play the Ohio State Buckeyes for a national championship. All right, let's talk about this one, Phoenix Suns and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Before we do so, make sure you subscribe, rate, review, support the show however you can. I'm going to be having me a nice Suns brew, a Four Peaks Suns brew. I forgot that Four Peaks made these things until I was walking through the aisle at Fry's yesterday, and I saw them. I'm like, you know what? One, it's a delicious beer. It's a Kolsch-style ale, so it's highly drinkable. It's 5.1% alcohol right there on the back. It's smooth, and I love the branding. I mean, I'm a Suns fan, so I love the branding. So yeah, let's pop them open. Oh yeah, a little foamy there, and let's talk about this Suns versus Cavaliers game.
Podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.
There you go. There's our new intro. We added a little audio at the end. That's the radio voice of the Phoenix Suns, John Bloom, introducing you to the Suns Jam Session. So thank you, Bloomer, for sending me the audio. It was a funny little message that he sent me with that. But yeah, let's talk about this game. Where do I want to start? I guess I'll just ask myself a question.
Matthew, I've got to ask.
All right, I got to ask, when was this one over? Okay, so this is a new segment. I might actually turn that into like a video. It's like, when was this one over? Or however I want to do it. When was this game over? This game was over at the beginning of quarters. The Suns, for some reason, it was a solid first quarter, 27-27. Phoenix came out, looked competent against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and in that first quarter, they were matching up nicely. And then the second quarter, they gave up a 15-5 run and were down 10 like that, as the Suns typically do. For some reason, this team has a challenge coming out of quarters and just locking in and being focused. And we saw that again tonight. And then you look at the third quarter. right? You look at halftime, they're down 46, 59, 46. So they're down 13 going into the half. And you think about it, okay? So you give up a 15-5 run to open the second quarter. You maintain, you hold the line at that point, and you're down 13 going into the half. So minus the run that opened the quarter, the Suns held their own. They got slapped in the face and they responded. Good. That's good. All right. The third quarter comes and they give up an 11-0 run right out of the gates. And what was a 59 to 46 game is now a 69 to 46 game. And you're down, 24 points. That's the game. Like when was this over? Right then, right in that moment, when the Suns, as they do, come out and just weren't focused in any capacity to compete against the best team in the league. And you have to be locked in when you play the best team in the league if you want to win or even compete. And I think that's what tonight was, right? The Suns have been looking good lately. And there is opportunity and reason for hope for this Phoenix Suns team because they have somewhat turned a corner. But they've turned that corner against subpar competition. So this is their first real test against I won't say their first real test against a quality team because they just beat a Detroit Pistons team that was a quality team. Like that was a good win against a mid-level team, much akin to themselves. But Cleveland is a completely different beast. And Phoenix came out in that third quarter, as they typically do, and were just a shell of themselves. And they showcased that this team it's a reminder that there's no world where the Suns are a championship contender. There are a lot of things, and they have some, the stock arrow is relatively going up on them. It's not a huge upswing. But when you play against a team like Cleveland that is just rolling this year, that is exuding organic chemistry, because that's what they possess is organic chemistry. Yeah, they brought Jared Allen in a trade with the Nets a few years ago, and Donovan Mitchell came over a couple seasons ago. But they've developed an identity of themselves, and it starts on the defensive end. This is one of the best defensive teams in the league, and defense leads to offense. And you could see that tonight because their defense, combined with the fact that the Suns just make boneheaded turnovers. Like, that's who we are. We're the boneheaded turnover team, right? 17 turnovers for the Suns led to 15 points off turnovers. And conversely, it was 9 turnovers by Cleveland, but they only gave up 7 points. And one thing that they did is they added a wrinkle off and on throughout the game that really took the Suns out of their offensive rhythm, and that was running zone. And it makes you wonder why teams don't run more zone. And part of that is personnel. Part of it is some teams just don't have the personnel with the connectivity to do so. And the Suns are one of those teams. We are not a good defensive team. To ask us to try to run some zone out there, we would be giving up layups or wide open threes because we just don't know how. Whereas Cleveland has that connectivity on the defensive end that they could throw that at the Suns for minutes at a time, which they did tonight, and fluster Phoenix, which they did tonight. And that led to those runs both in both quarters. Both times there was zone defense going on. The Suns can't score, turning the ball, making boneheaded, just throwing live ball turnovers. And you just can't do that when you're playing the best team in the NBA in their arena. Now, let's talk about the stat of the night.
Ooh, dang, stat me.
15 offensive rebounds for the Cleveland Cavaliers, 1 offensive rebound for the Phoenix Suns, 23 second chance points for the Cleveland Cavaliers, 4 second chance points for the Phoenix Suns. Yes, that's right. Even with Nick Richards, this team still has a hard time protecting the glass. And you wonder on this one, is it personnel or is it will? And I think it's a mixture of both. One, Phoenix has the oldest team in the league. And when your team is old, energy is a factor. And when energy and fatigue set in, effort goes along with it because you simply just don't have the motor to rebound or team rebound. There was one play in the third quarter where Donovan Mitchell out-rebounded 4 guys. It was like 4 guys standing around getting a rebound, and Donovan Mitchell got one. Then he popped a 3 on the play, and it was just another slap in the face that put them up 23. And that's a challenge with Phoenix. So we talk about all of these potential rotational opportunities and assets that are out there. And I'm going to talk about one here in a bit, in Patrick Williams from Chicago. And I see Saul's comment, and he's not wrong. Saul in the chat says the Suns need a true power forward. But at the same time, it's an effort thing. And you can have the personnel all day long. You can have the archetypes all day long. But if they don't possess, or there is a culture of not caring as much, it's not going to matter. It just isn't. And, who's to say what's going to happen relative to making transactions? Who's going to say if there will be any semblance of a cultural shift? But it's a problem, and that's why going into this game, it was interesting to see how the Suns would navigate playing against the Cavs, who were without some quality guys. Like Evan Mobley's their starting power forward. He was not there. They didn't have Karis LeVert. They had some key pieces out, but culturally, they believe in rebounding. Culturally, they believe in defense. And it's like a team in football that can run the ball and play defense. Those teams are going to win a lot because they control the game. You control it with the effort on defense. You control it by running the ball. That's what I hope Notre Dame does against Ohio State here in about an hour, is just run the ball and play defense and stop Ohio State from scoring, and then win the game and win a national championship. And I will cry like a baby. And I want to cry. I want to cry so much. I want Notre Dame to win so bad. So looking at some other things in this game, and I guess we can start off by talking about our newest addition, Nick Richards.
Nicky, the great Nick Richards. Richard means Dick, that's why he's Nicky, the great Nick Richards.
So Nick Richards in this game got his first start with the Suns, but he only played 22 minutes. He was 2 of 4 from the field. He ended with 4 total rebounds, 1 assist, 5 personal fouls, 4 points. And so obviously the fouls were a challenge. But what's kind of telling is in those 22 minutes, he was a team worst -26. And so what you saw, there was a combination of factors. 1, Nick Richards being fouled. And 2, in the minutes he was playing, he just wasn't as productive as you would hoped he would have been against Jared Allen. Coach Budenholzer went to small ball 5 pretty early and stuck with it throughout the game. And it wasn't a recipe for success, clearly. Clearly it wasn't a recipe for success. Kevin Durant as a 5, just it's an advantage you can throw. It's a wrinkle you should be able to throw at teams, but to rely on it on the defensive end, it's not something that was going to work in their favor. And they had to pull, and that's because Mason Plumlee is dog shit, right? That's because Oso Ighodaro is undersized, and you can't throw him out against Jared Allen. And Nick Richards, just an off night, did have some quality rebounds, but again, only 4 rebounds, 4 points, 22 minutes played in that -26. So, it's just a reminder that he is somebody who's going to need team support around him and team rebounding. And that's an issue that we've had in Phoenix for quite some time. And that's why Saul's comment about the archetype of a true power forward is so needed in Phoenix, right? Because you go back to DA, and sometimes people would dog DA, myself included, for his effort. But sometimes he was busy trying to box out, and you need somebody else on the team to come in and rebound. Like, I'm going to take Jared Allen out of the play. I'm going to box him out. But in boxing him out, I can't also grab the rebound. Because if I'm trying to grab the rebound, I'm not boxing him out. And he's a really good rebounder. And so you need that power forward archetype, like a Patrick Williams potentially, as somebody who could come in and clean up the glass as you're doing your job in boxing out. And Nick Richards was trying to box out as well as he could in this game. But against that team, it wasn't working in his favor. Speaking of Kevin Durant in this one.
Who the heck are you?
I'm Kevin Durant. You know who I am. Y'all know who I am.
Did anybody see a sniper? Did anybody see anything?
I'm one of the best players to ever play the game.
So yeah, Kevin Durant, this one, led the Suns in scoring with 23 points. He was 9 of 16 from the field, only attempted 1 3-pointer, and he made it. 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 block shots, 3 horrible turnovers, because that's just like that's what you accept as part of the Kevin Durant deal. Is he's just going to make like really bad live ball turnovers where he just like literally throws it to the team. But I was thinking about this as I was watching, and one of the interesting things about doing the subreddit stakeout is you get to see how opposing fan bases see the Suns through their eyes, right? And one thing that is that you notice time and again is that there's this appreciation for Kevin Durant, and we know this because we used to feel the same way every night when he would play. It's like fuck, and like I found myself again doing it today, seeing some of the great shot making that he makes, and see him running up and down the court in purple and orange with an orange 35 on his back. I'm like, man, dude, it's Kevin fucking Durant. Like that guy is amazing at basketball. Amazing at basketball. But it's not always about basketball, is it? Sorry, KD stans. I swear there should be like a KD stan podcast where all the KD stans can just go and jerk each other off on how amazing he is at basketball. He's so fucking good, man. Like circle jerking around. Because I always see it in the comments. It's like, you know, when Devin Booker sucks, you don't talk about how he sucks. But when Kevin Durant has 8 turnovers, he's amazing. It's like, it must be so nice. And I know I've said this before, but it must be so nice to be a fan of just a guy. Because you can just like go, man, this team's failing him. He's amazing, but they're failing him. It's like, you ever look inward and go, maybe he's failing the Suns in some capacity? Like, it's not all about just putting up points, man. And yeah, I mean, so, it's the KD stands on Twitter, I swear. A drink break. I just see him, and I can't wait for KD to be gone just because I'll never deal with those motherfuckers. They can go to the next infestation, right? They're like, you know, they're like swarms of locusts who just consume everything in their path. You know, KD, he did have a good game. I'm not faulting KD. He was not put in a position to win in this game because he had to play a lot of 5, which defensively he had a hard time with. And he was the best player for Phoenix today. So there's that side of it, right? Like there's recognition of that. But there's also the recognition and where a lot of Suns fans are at. It's like, you know, this team isn't it right now. We should probably blow it up. And if you're going to blow it up, you can get a lot for Kevin Durant. One, you can get rid of all the KD stands, which is going to be fucking amazing. And I can't wait to read the comments. I swear they have algorithms where they go to Suns podcast, find the one snippet where it talks about KD, then they go to the next podcast, and you know they're the locusts as well. But I understand why people want to blow it up. I'm not there yet. I'm not in the blow it up camp yet. I know that we just got spanked by 26 points on the road against the best team in the NBA, but like I'm not there yet because I remember what it was like being a rebuilding franchise. Like the thing you have to realize about Phoenix is we haven't had a lot of rebuilding phases, right? Go through the history of the Suns, right? You know, since 68, a team that built itself up. But by 1976, a season where they went 42-40, mind you, they went to the NBA Finals. And, you know, rookie Alvin Adams, they got the next year it was rookie Walter Davis. And then they had some good teams, you know, in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. There was a couple seasons of mediocrity in there, but they still, because of the size of the NBA, made the playoffs. A couple surprising seasons. 1983 was the 83-84 season was a surprising season where the team wasn't very good, but they made it to the Western Conference Finals, ultimately to lose to the Showtime Lakers. They had a little bit of a downswing in the post-cocaine era where some players got busted for cocaine issues in the 80s. But right away they rebuilt. They brought in Kevin Johnson on a trade. They drafted Dan Marley. They got Tom Chambers, and they were a humming offense. And then, a team that just couldn't make it. Just they're scoring a ton of points. They're winning a ton of games. They just couldn't get past like the Lakers or the Portland Trail Blazers. And then they get Charles Barkley, and boom, they're in the finals. And then they have a couple seasons where they're really good teams, but injuries, the Danny Manning issue and whatnot. Charles leaves, and from like 96 to 99, the team is kind of in this little lull. But next thing you know, Jason Kidd's on the team. Penny Hardaway's on the team. And although backcourt 2K didn't necessarily work the way that we all wanted it to, they still were competitive and made the playoffs, losing to the Spurs. There's a couple down seasons. They get Stephon Marbury after, Jason Kidd slapping people around, and Penny Hardaway's clearly broken, so we trade him to the Knicks. We get Stephon Marbury. He has a decent season with the Suns. We go to the playoffs with Amari Stoudemire. It's looking bright because you've got Sean Marion, and they trade Stephon Marbury to the Knicks as well. They bring in Steve Nash. Boom, 7 seconds or less from 2004 to 2010. This team is constantly competitive. And then they go into rebuild mode, and the first true rebuild mode that they'd had since they were pretty much a new franchise, and it lasted for 10 years. So that's why I'm not like overly excited to say blow this thing up. But I understand why people say blow it up, because you want to have hope again. Because right now, this Suns team feels like it's hopeless. Because they get in their own way, they turn the ball over, they there's like 5 things you need to do to win a basketball game, and they'll always do 4 of them really well, but that 5th one they'll just like really suck at, right? Like they'll be amazing from shooting 3, and they'll have really good defense. They hold the ball and they don't turn it over, but then they'll have they don't rebound for the entire game. And the opposing team shoots 15 more shots than we do, and they win the game. Like, that's just the Phoenix Suns. And so why I understand people want to launch this team into the celestial orb that it's named after, the sun. I understand that, but I'm just not there yet, because I know that a rebuild is just tough. It's tough. Now, granted, the Suns have some things working in their favor, right? There's some things they have working in their favor. This is a destination. You do have an owner who's known to spend money. So if there's a rebuild, if it's like trade KD, get some picks back, somehow, I mean, Beal's the one that I think you need to obviously move off of. But if you move off of KD and you start to go into this semi-rebuild or this full-blown rebuild, a full-blown rebuild is like get rid of KD, get rid of Devin Booker, Bradley Beal's standing here with the car keys and being like, oh, shit, I thought I was getting into a Ferrari. Now it's, like a 1991 Eagle Talon TSI, but the turbo keeps getting blown out on it. So I don't really know if I want to drive this car. And then maybe he does accept a trade. And now you have assets. Now you have draft picks. I don't know if James Jones is still around that situation, but to his credit, James Jones has done a pretty decent job of drafting since he's been the general manager, despite, obviously 2020. But, how soon does this team rise from the ashes? How many seasons are we going to have to go through for that? And that's what people are looking at right now. They're so frustrated with this team and so hopeless that they're willing to say, I want hope. Give me hope. That's what I want, rather than watch this team right now. And again, I can understand it. And I hope that by saying all that, you understand that I understand where you're coming from if you say blow it up. I'm just not there yet. I'm just not there yet. Johnny Dang, a super chat. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for everyone who's watching. If you're on the YouTube, hit the thumbs up. Support the show if you can. Johnny Dang, $4.99 in the super chat says, this show is dope. Best Suns podcast. We won't need to trade KD at the end of the season. We will need to get off of him before his value declines. And yeah, that's where a lot of people are saying, if you trade him now, whoever you're trading him to has a year and a half of KD, and that's why his value is higher than if you trade him this offseason. I think you wait till this offseason comes, and it might not be the greatest value, but he's still Kevin Durant. And I honestly believe that you'll get something for him. It might not be as much as you're getting right now, but you'll still get something from him. Speaking of how the Suns play defense, and when you watch Cleveland, that intermittent zone, I wonder if the Suns can learn anything from good teams, like when we play them. Like, does their coaching staff go, oh, fuck, man, why don't we run that wrinkle? Again, I talked a little bit earlier about how it's personnel based and how, from a connectivity standpoint, this might not be the most connected team on defense. But it'd be nice to just throw it like a few possessions here and there and just see if they can do it. Just see if they can do it. Booker in this one.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is
Big Dick Booker.
Yeah, Booker clearly is still upset because the Detroit Lions laid a big fat egg on Saturday. That's when they played, right? Yeah, Saturday night. Losing to the Washington Commanders, the best Lions team, 15-2, the best Lions team in the history of their franchise in the regular season, at least since they've joined the NFL. And, I mean, to lose to the Commanders the way they did. And think about it. If you're a Detroit fan, like, the day started with the Suns beating the Pistons. And you're like, yeah, that sucks. But, oh, well, man, we're playing in this divisional round game against the Commanders, and then to lose. And I have empathy for that because the Suns just lost, and Notre Dame could lose in about 3 hours. So, like, and they probably will because, like, it's my fan life, right? Like, that's what I get for being a fan of teams is, like, when they lose, they all like to do so on the same day. So I definitely understand where Detroit's coming from. But Booker, not a great game in this one. 6 of 14 from the field, 15 points, ended with 5 assists, 3 rebounds, and 6 fucking turnovers, man. And he looked bad in the way that he was turning the ball over because he was doing some of that Bledsoe shit. And for those of you who were around for the rebuild, you'll know who Eric Bledsoe was and what Bledsoe shit means. Eric Bledsoe used to jump in the air, and that's when he'd decide where he was going to go with the ball. He wouldn't jump in the air to pass to a predetermined destination. He would jump in the air and be like, oh, shit, I got to pass it because the shot's not there. And that's how he would turn it over. And that's what Devin Booker was doing tonight. He was doing some of that crazy, dumb pass shit. And you can't have that. You can't have Devin Booker have 6 turnovers and the entire Cleveland Cavaliers team have 9. 6, 9? Oh, my God. Giggity, all right. You can't have that shit. Booker has to be better than 15 points. 15 points against the best team in the NBA. 15 points. It's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. And that's one of the challenges we've had with Booker this season. And against subpar competition, he's looked great. Against teams like the Cavaliers, Oklahoma City, Booker has not looked great. Nefarious Max. How much more losing is it going to take to make you realize it's time to blow it up? All right, general manager Nefarious Max. Till the end of the season. I say we ride this fucker out. You compete right now. The Suns shouldn't be buyers or shouldn't be sellers right now. They should be buyers because of the level of talent that they have. And that's the only reason why. The chemistry isn't there. Bradley Beal looked like ass today, but granted, he's coming off an injury, whatever. He's always coming off an injury. But based on where they end this offseason, I always said this was a 2-year window, not a 1.5-year window. This was a 2-year window with Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. So you ride it out. You see where you land. And then in the offseason, if you don't meet expectations, and expectations, in my opinion, was like a Western Conference Finals appearance. You don't hit that, now we start to press the detonator and see what happens. Speaking of Bradley Beal, there it is.
And she said, you're not the only one, but you're the best, Bradley. Bo, bo.
Yeah, 5 minutes or 5 points, 5 minutes, 5 points for Bradley Beal in 24, almost 25 minutes. 4 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 turnovers for him. Yeah, Bradley Beal, this move to the bench, I believe in the long run it's going to be productive, and it has been somewhat productive. Again, coming off of an injury, coming off an ankle injury, mind you, going against, again, the best defensive team in the league. So they're going to just, as a team, culturally be able to stop him. But the thing I want to talk about with Bradley Beal is something that NBA insider Mark Stein put out there. I think he put this out there yesterday. He says the Bucks, to this point, have been more frequently painted as a team likely to rekindle their previous interests in Phoenix's Bradley Beal if they intend to pursue a trade for a player in the $50 million range. Milwaukee previously showed interest in Beal when he was still in the Wizards. Okay. Bradley Beal in Milwaukee makes sense for Milwaukee. I mean, you got Dame Lillard. You got Chris Middleton, who's a 3, not playing well, relegated to the bench. You need a 2, and you got Giannis. Take Bradley Beal, please. Now, I haven't gone on the trade machine yet. It's definitely something I'm going to really start to go into, probably tomorrow. I have tomorrow off, and it'll probably be an article that I'll write for Bright Side of the Sun about Bradley Beal to Milwaukee, what it could look like, and what have you. It could be a team that facilitates the Jimmy trade. And the Jimmy trade, again, it's something I've said I go back and forth on. One thing I do not go back and forth on is if you can get off of Bradley Beal's contract this season's a win for me. You don't get rid of Booker. You don't get rid of Durant. That window for them, you give it another year, right? You sign KD to the extension in the offseason. You still got Booker under contract. If you get off that Beal deal, that one that has a no trade clause, that's a massive victory. That's a massive victory. You got to get off that. You got to get off that fucking contract, man. That's just my thoughts. So we'll see how that progresses. If they're truly interested in him, and if you could sell him on it, and I think you could, like, if you tell him, it's like, hey, Brad, it's been kind of rough here, man. Just bumpy, right? Like, we suck. You want to go play in Milwaukee? They're playing decent. They got Giannis. Why not? Go for it, please go for it. Another thing I wanted to talk about, Bill Simmons. All right, so for those of you who are fans of the show, you know that Matthew and myself, we both listen to Bill Simmons religiously. And I get if you're not a big Bill Simmons guy, it's definitely something that there's a history there, right? There's a history, and he can kind of be annoying to listen to. I mean, he doesn't have what you would call a cult following amongst Suns fans. He hasn't always been supportive of the Suns fans. I mean, he bleeds green. If you listen to his podcast, which I have religiously since like 2016, it's glaringly obvious. He's Celtics to his core. Everything he talks about somehow circles back to Boston. It's like when he's talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder's recent hot streak, somehow he'll tie it into Jason Tatum's MVP campaign. It is who he is. But still, like, I like his analysis on things. And recently he was doing a power poll, ranking NBA teams from 30 to 1 while dissecting their strengths and their weaknesses. And say what you say about the guy, his take on the Suns was fascinating. Not just because it was him saying it, but because it was a realistic perspective from a national kind of level, I feel. Like him or loathe him, he knows basketball. Historian of the game. And while his Celtics bias may make you grit your teeth, you got to give the man his due. And so what I'd like to do is play what he had to say about the Phoenix Suns on his most recent podcast. Let me cue that up.
Phoenix, number 21. They're 19-20. Their last 15 games, they're basically 22nd net, 26 defense for points per 100% possessions. This team's just not good. You can talk yourself into, oh, they just got, blah, blah. I don't see it. I watch them play whoever, and I'm very invested in them because this is going to be probably the first FanDuel Super Boost we've lost since 2020. We thought they were going to get 47 plus wins. We thought they were going to shoot a bunch of threes. Priscilla House and I were all aligned on it. And then you watch them and I just don't see it. They can't rebound. They can't protect the rim. The guys don't seem like they like playing with each other. You watch them play a team, I don't know, they pick a bad team. Like they'll play like Charlotte or Washington or whoever. And you're watching the back and forth. You're like, I'm not sure they're much better than this other team. The league's just really good and really deep. And what's funny, KD and Booker are both over 36 minutes a game, and they've actually had them for most of the year. It's a team that makes more sense on paper in 2017 than in 2025 when you need depth. They just threw away depth. The Beal trade was Chris Paul, Shamit, 2024, 26, 28, and 30 first round swaps with Washington, and a bunch of seconds for Beal. And it was a terrible trade when it happened. I hated it. I thought they left themselves with no outs. I was not a giant Beal guy. And now he's at 50, 53.7 and 57 million for this year and the next two with a no trade clause. And they can't trade him. He knows they can't trade him. I'm not sure he gives a crap. They have Nurkic at 18 and 19. They have Grayson Allen at basically 16 this year and then 3 more years after that. And those are their trade assets. And nobody wants Beal. Nobody. Not one team. I don't know what they do. I do know this. I was thinking about the worst big threes of all time because we did use the big three. I didn't, but we used the big three word with Durant and Booker and Beal. This is up there for worst big three of all time. But I think the answer, as much as I love Steve Nash, is Kobe and Dwight and Nash that 1 year at the Lakers when people were calling them the big three. And then Nash was like, his body just completely broke down. Kobe hated Dwight. That's probably our worst big three. You could talk me into LeBron and AD and Russ. Some people try to get it going when Russ and Paul George and Carmelo were on the same team that 1 year. But this is like a possible Mount Rushmore, oh my God, I can't believe we called them the big three kind of situation. It's also another unhappy Kevin Durant team. So we have the 2019 Warriors, unhappy. 2022 and 23 Nets, unhappy. 2024 Suns, unhappy. 2025 Suns, currently unhappy. I'm just flagging it. Maybe it's a coincidence. One more other thing with them. Beal keeps being mentioned in trades as if anyone's trading for him. And it's like, well, Jimmy Butler really wants to go to Phoenix. Cool. You're going to have to trade Kevin Durant or Devin Booker for Jimmy Butler because you're not getting him for Bradley Beal. Nobody wants that contract. Nobody wants Bradley Beal. I think he's the number one trade asset you don't want in the entire league. Sorry, Bradley Beal, but it's true. The Suns are the guy in your fantasy league who texts you and tries to trade you DeAndre Swift for Brock Bowers. Hey, I see you need a running back. What about Swift for Bowers? And you just like, dude, stop. Nobody wants Beal. Nobody wants Nurkic. It's like, yeah, you're not getting Vucevic for Nurkic and a couple of number twos. Stop. It's not happening. The whole league is annoyed by the Suns. It's a really important point. Everyone in the league's like, Ishbia is just on a bender and this team is insane and stop calling us.
All of that
Phoenix,
is fact.
Number 21.
Oh, it's playing
They're
again.
19 and 20.
There you go. Facts. As much as everyone hates Bill Simmons and Suns Fever 83, God, he has such a punchable voice. Not a huge fan's voice. I normally listen to it on 1.5. I do everything on 1.5. I was doing some training at work the other day and it was just fucking driving me crazy. I put it on 1.5, man. That's how I process. So just hearing that right there is different for me because it was slower. But it's 100% right. Everything. That's the sad thing about it. That's the sad thing is you take a look at what Bill said and it's true. All of it's true. That's how he perceives the team. Not wrong in doing so. I don't feel like he's wrong in doing so. And, it's just that's the state of the Suns. And I put that in front of the bright side community. And I said, hey, what are your thoughts on this? 42% strongly agreed with what he said and 37%. So that's 79% of our readers. And we have a good community at Bright Side of the Sun. 845 total votes on that poll. 79% of the people agree with Bill Simmons. I think it's a great summation of who Phoenix are. It is who Phoenix is. So, now we look at teams that we play, like, the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight. What'd they have to say? Well, I was in the subreddit stakeout.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
Now, as you can see, I didn't go as Batman. I didn't go disguised. I was actually wearing this Notre Dame hat right here. So they thought I was just a guy from, who they probably wouldn't have liked me because they were probably all going for Ohio State. But anyways, hear what they had to say. We can't trade Nyang. Does too many little things. He's fat. Get over it. Niang is just another one of those guys that is an archetype of a player we don't have. And that's just a bench deterrent and irritant. Like, who do we have on this team that is an irritant that comes off the bench? Grayson Allen? Not really. He doesn't irritate people. I think he actively tries to not irritate people because of his reputation. But we don't have that irritant guy. And they do. Niang, the way he was bodying up KD, he's one of the guys who goes out there and is like, listen, you're not going to call it every time. So I'm going to be as physical with everybody that I can. And we'll see. Plumlee and Allen make this Suns team really unlikable. Yeah, I can see that. Plumlee makes me not like him. Mitchell, there's a lot of they were dogging Mitchell a lot, which is funny to me because the guy, he went for 33 points. He hit some huge threes, but I get it. We dog KD and Booker sometimes, so I mean it's just all part of being a fan, I guess. But Mitchell is liquid dog shit. I think it's called diarrhea. This Suns roster is a dead end group. They couldn't grab a lead for 6 minutes of the Cavs having Yang, Merrill, and Tristan Thompson in the year 2025. Laugh my ass off. Yeah, that was a key stretch in the second quarter where the Suns were, again, they gave up that 15-5 run, but then they fought back, but they couldn't get over the hump. And it was against some players who thought that they would be able to. And then when the starters came back in, they extended the lead. KD is so bad at passing out. Yeah, those are the dumb turnovers. When KD tries to go cross court and just forgets that there's a linebacker hanging out in the zone, just waiting for him to do so, and leads a fast break. Good start to the half, but my goodness, the Suns are bad. Dude, everything for the Suns looks so hard. The ball never moves, and everything is an ISO bucket. Absolutely dreadful offense to watch. Ouch. That's an opposing fan base saying that. Ouch. And the last one, I feel for Suns fans. Maybe things will turn around, but in my opinion, trading for Durant and Beal was not the move to make. They had a good thing going with space to improve, and now they're just in a bad spot now. That's kind of what Bill Simmons said, and that's what the fan base over there in Cleveland is saying about this team.
The Suns Jam Session Subreddit Stakeout.
Yeah. Sobering. It's a sobering edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast. But I appreciate you guys hanging out here with me. I got 367 are here right now. The majority of which are on the Bright Side Twitter feed. So if you're watching this on the Bright Side Twitter feed, head over to our YouTube feed. Please just leave me a like or something or subscribe. I don't care. Don't do it. Just thanks for hanging out. Shout out to Suns Facebook. No one on Suns Facebook is watching this shit. It's because they don't know how to. It's like I won't even like, Mom, how do? Anyways, let's handle some hardware.
Jam star of the game.
Yeah, and this one I'm giving the jam star to Kevin Durant, only member of the Suns to score over 20 points. Again, his shot making is just fucking ridiculous, and I respect it, and I love seeing him in a Suns jersey. I understand the reasons why people are up and down on him, and I'm definitely somebody who is in the same boat, especially considering that it's the intangibles with Kevin Durant. It's not his, at those KD stand circle jerks when they're just, doing this around everyone around him. Oh, man, finish me, dude. I love KD too. It's like, oh, Brooklyn KD. But when they're having those, they always talk about his scoring ability and his shot making, but they don't talk about his intangibles and who he is as a teammate and how he acts off the court and if he fosters an environment of winning, right? And that's what anti-KD people say. It's like, you can't win unless Steph's there, I just believe that we're somewhere in the middle when it comes to him. But from a basketball standpoint, he was the jam star tonight. Let's see. Jam star from Caesars, from Suns Fever 83. Jam star is not a damn person in that. Michael Kolb, sorry, but I give the jam star to GA. The effort, all games matter. All game matters. Katie, second place. Seth Logan Hopkins. KD, because under 4 turnovers. Yeah, I guess. The least bad player of the game from Juan Carlos Arenado, Grayson Allen. So there you go, Jamsters. Well, hopefully things will look a little bit up as we prepare for the next game. The Suns are going to Brooklyn on Wednesday, playing the Nets, a team that's in sell now mode. I mean, the Cam Johnson is going to be playing for somebody different by the trade deadline, I assume. And Cleveland is actually one of the teams that's rumored to be interested in Cam Johnson. A lot of people on the subreddit stake are like, we don't need him. We've got whoever their rookie was. It's going to be weird. I hope that whoever trades for Cam Johnson is an Eastern Conference team. I don't know if I could stand seeing Cam Johnson like 3 or 4 times a year because it just breaks my heart. I mean, it's just like, it's like when Dan Marley went to Miami. Do you guys remember that? When the Suns traded him to the Miami Heat or the Cleveland Cavaliers. He went to Cleveland first and then Miami. They traded him to Cleveland when Cleveland had those god-awful fucking jerseys. The blue and orange and black ones that were it was part of that revolution of 90s uniforms. The Rockets, the Sonics, the Suns, although the Suns and the Suns were clearly the best, but like Cleveland's uniforms were fucking horrible. But we traded Thunder Dan there. And then like when we'd have to play against Thunder Dan, it was just like, oh man, like Thunder Dan was a foundational piece of a team that went to the finals, just like Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges are. So we'll always look at those guys like, oh man, dude. But that's who we play next is Brooklyn, and it's a team we should be. And if you think about it, if you take a step back and look at this time period in the Suns season, okay, 21-21, they're a 500 team. And I haven't looked at the standings, but I'll look them up right quick while I'm talking to y'all because I know there's probably still some games yet to play today. But yet they're still in 11th place. Okay, still 2 games out of 6th. 5 games now. I mean, Denver won while we lost. 5 games out of 4th and 3.5 out of 5th. So, I mean, halfway point of the season is past. We're 21-21. We're 42 games in. And if we beat Brooklyn, a team that we lost to this year, but if we beat Brooklyn on Wednesday, that's a 3-2 road trip. Not horrible. Playing some horrible teams, but beat those horrible teams. But a 3-2 road trip. They acquired a new center along the way who will definitely assist. Isn't going to lose you games, I feel like. And I'm still kind of frustrated with Coach Bud going so small so quick in this one. I get that Nick Richards kind of forced his hand because of foul trouble. But I really wish that we would have embraced a little bit more size out there for a little bit longer. Maybe even had some Oso Ighodaro at the 4 and Nick Richards at the 5, knowing that, well, I guess you can't do that because from a perimeter defensive standpoint, man, Cleveland would just shredded us from deep because they're a good 3-point shooting team too. I mean, this is a damn good team that we play tonight. But that's the state of the Suns as it's continued to be. And, there will be nights where I will be on here and I will be in the blowed up camp. And for those of you who want to blow it up, like look forward to those nights because it will happen. Like I teeter back and forth. I'm right on the precipice of it. When we lost to Charlotte, I was right there. I was like, fuck this team. Like if I'm going to lose to Charlotte, I want to be shitty too. Then not a team that's got this much payroll. Like at least give me hope. Give me a draft pick. Like let me hop on Tankathon and start doing some draft recaps and whatnot. So, but that's pretty much it for the show. Again, thank you guys for showing up. I'll talk briefly about, for those of you who give a shit, Notre Dame plays tonight, and this is obviously the natty. And, Math is coming over, my brother's coming over, and, some people are coming over, and I'm probably just going to go watch in the garage. Like, I can't. This isn't like watching the Super Bowl. Like, I always have people over for the Super Bowl, and it's fun. You shoot the shit, you talk about the game, make a bunch of bets, but like if the Cardinals were playing in the Super Bowl, I don't know if I could handle it, or the Bills. Like I'm a Bills fan too, not nearly as much as I'm a Cardinals fan, but I am definitely a Bills fan. So we'll see how that, but this is different. Like Notre Dame playing for national championship. I mean, you guys know, I got the little leprechaun tattooed, I'm just, it's like Suns win a championship would be number 1, but Notre Dame is like right there, number 2. So let's just put some positive vibes out there, Jamsters. Let's hope Notre Dame upsets Ohio State, and Ohio State's a team. And I know I've said this on the pod, but I'll say it again. It's a team that they've ruined some days for me, And it's always my argument when people like talk shit about the Suns. I always go, when have they ever ruined your day? If you're not a Suns fan, if you're a Suns fan, fuck, it's, there's 21 days that they've ruined so far for us. It's 3 weeks in our lives this season that they've ruined. But if you're not a Suns fan, there's teams that they've eliminated from the playoffs, right? But they've never won a championship. They've never made everyone in the league put a target on their back. They've come close. And yeah, you can say, Mavericks or, the Pelicans might not like us because we eliminated them from the playoffs. And that's fair. But they don't do it consistently. And like Ohio State's one of those teams that they've ruined some days for me. 2007 Fiesta Bowl, Ted Ginn Jr., 2017-16 Fiesta Bowl, when Ezekiel Elliott went apeshit and Jalen Smith blew his knee out. 1996 Rose Bowl, David Boston catching a touchdown to negate a national championship for Arizona State Sun Devils and Jake Plummer. Ohio State just annoys the shit out of me. So I hope that send a volley, cheer on high. Please, dear Lord, let Notre Dame win this one. Play like a champion today, please. All right, everybody, go home, love your family. We'll see you Wednesday.
Hey, you're listening to the Suns Jam Session podcast, shooting the shit about the Suns since 2019.